Cool. This is gonna be going live. It looks like we are live, man.
Awesome.
Trevor.
Let's
First,
go.
it's dude. It's great that to meet you. I guess here in person. We've been chatting online for what, like a month now or so. You found
Yeah,
your
I would
way
say
into
so.
the Hustleverse somehow.
I did.
Found some interest and now we're here chatting. And it seems like you are also a solid analyst and also a solid yapper in terms of
Got a
uh,
yap.
analyzing your own information online and putting out your own outputs.
I just think it's incredibly helpful because you get constant feedback. I mean, it's like investing. You're right or you're wrong. And it's also like when you go post on X, like you get feedback right away, whether people agree or disagree, which is super helpful. And I was actually talking to some other analysts about this the other day. It's like, man, as you're tweeting, posting on X, making investments, like you want constant feedback. You want people to poke holes in your theses. Like you need that. Like that's a hidden superpower of crypto. Is like you can get 100,000 people poke holes in it every day. It's great.
Yeah. They'll let you know when you're wrong or they disagree with you, man.
And they'll keep bringing it up. If you're wrong, man, it's rent free in your head. It's fantastic. It's super great.
Yeah, it really is. It really is. If you can emotionally handle it. Some people can't most people can't emotionally be having pushback in any form on their life, right? So it does take a special person to be able to be open to criticism about, whatever you're putting out there. And so, yeah, congrats to you to be able to do that because most people can't. And certainly I know we were just talking offline for a sec. I know a ton of people in, traditional finance, stocks, options trading, that sort of stuff, who literally can't be, and they're in it and they would do great on socials because they have so much knowledge, but they just can't deal with that emotional aspect. Like they just can't deal with it.
Yeah. And I think when I was first starting my career in wealth management, I had a mentor who kept telling me, assume positive intent. Anytime you get feedback, whether it's an investment, whether you're working in the office, whatever it is, assume positive intent. That's a little bit harder on Twitter.
For sure.
That's a little bit harder to do. People are a little bit more direct. It's not, you don't go see that person every day in the kitchen. So people are a little bit more ruthless.
Yeah, totally, man.
Trevor, totally. I'm curious about your story as we wait for, some people to come in and tune in. As I mentioned, as we first started, we connected as you began experimenting with Hustle. And before the show, you said that you'd gotten into crypto in 2020. You work over at Asymmetric as an analyst. Give us a story, man.
Yeah, absolutely. So I started my career in 2021, working wealth management, worked for a multifamily office. Absolutely loved it. It was awesome. I had an incredible mentor, former BlackRock guy, incredible mentor to me. So I spent all my time like on mostly on public markets, helping manage a liquid book. It was incredible learning experience. And then we also did alternatives. So we had private equity, private credit, anything under the sun we did. And so we also had some crypto investments with some funds. And so when I came on in 2020, 2021, they found out like, hey, this kid knows a lot about crypto. So then I kind of got to helping manage those relationships with those fund managers, which was super helpful. I got to learn a lot about the space and think about markets in a very different way, private versus public versus, these private funds that get liquid in three years. It's pretty incredible, and learn how to like manage that. Found out really quick, a lot of them don't know how to manage liquid positions. So a lot of them ate some P&L because of that. They, couldn't hedge, which is an incredible learning experience. And one of the things I really like about Joe is he's incredibly good at that. And so then I kind of just kept diving into it, kept writing. I wrote for our multifamily office. I helped write our market views for all our clients that went on every month. So I just wrote a ton, and then got really into crypto and valuing assets. And I just kept writing, and I was in Joe's Telegram chat and I kept writing. He acknowledged them, and he said he'd give me feedback on them, and just kind of built a relationship that way. And then over the years I kept pitching. I was like, man, whenever you want to hire an analyst, I'm down. And eventually just kept writing. And eventually, we set up a call, and he was like, I want to bring you on. And so the rest is kind of history. But yeah, spent a lot of my time on the public markets.
Very cool.
Initially, earlier on in my career.
That's so funny. In crypto, there's so many stories I know of people just talking inside of a Discord or Telegram forever, and eventually that's how you get hired.
Yeah, no, it's awesome. Very grateful for the opportunity, and man, it's a stacked team at Asymmetric. So looking forward to the future.
How many guys do you have over there?
We are 5 investors, but the broader team is 19.
Wow.
19. A bunch of developers, software engineers, incredibly cracked team internally. And
I
I'll
believe
leave
the
that.
top dog on Solana, right? Top dog on
Sorry.
Solana, I believe. Top VC on Solana, I believe.
I wish I knew. I don't know.
I believe
Maybe.
I believe so. Or at least that's what somebody had told me. I know you guys also have a Bitcoin fund
We do.
with Dan Held is running that one, right?
Dan Held and Lucas run that, and they're both stellar. We just had an offsite in Miami, so got to hang out with both of them. Incredibly smart individuals, so very excited about that. And then so we've got the venture fund, liquid alpha fund, and then we have a high vol fund as well.
Wow,
high vol in crypto seems crazy, right? Clients wanted more volatility, so here we go.
So what is it? Is that just like getting down into like the low caps and like the emerging sectors?
Well,
of crypto?
I can't spill all the tea.
That's fine
for obvious reasons, but yeah, we do. It's a little bit definitely more risk on, more leverage there a little bit, but it's cool.
One of the viewers says, "How maxi is Dan Held in person?"
He's still a maxi. He's a great guy though. Still a maxi for sure, but he's incredibly smart. Incredibly smart. I wish he'd post a little bit more on X. I know he posts a lot, but smart, very smart individual. The team's cracked. I was very impressed.
Yeah, it's so funny. I actually had tweeted the other day. It was like less meetings and more tweets, and how the majority of things can be solved by just the majority of marketing issues can be solved by just tweeting more. It's crazy.
Yep.
Kind of crazy how that works.
Both Dan and Lucas have massive brands.
Well, I know Dan being a bit of a maxi, it's never ending. Gotcha timeline, which we just talked about, like the ability for him to just put up with the continual battles on X is, I wouldn't want to be in that position. That's for sure.
No, he's got tough skin.
Yeah,
he's got tough skin for sure.
So cool, Trev. Also, make sure you repost the video. It's from it's on Adam's account, just to make sure that some of the people can see.
Absolutely.
See your smiling face on here. You ever do live streams or podcasts or anything?
No, first one.
Actually,
I did one with Bodagos.
Oh, nice.
Nick and Pio and Easy. Geez, I probably did it 2 years ago now, back when I was working for the multifamily office, and it was on real estate. So it's been 2 years. That's and I was on it for all of 5 minutes. So first one.
Well, awesome. I'm happy that we can bring you in. These streams that we do, a lot of it's showcasing hustle, also just connecting with individuals like yourself who may be interested in AI or just actually understand a lot about it and have a lot of interest. These are things that we do a few times a week as go through different types of effective marketing. I would love to hear from you. Your thoughts on just the overall AI space in crypto, whether you want to stay specific to Solana or any of the other kind of markets. It's up to you, but I'd love to hear kind of your thesis on it.
Yeah, absolutely. You guys probably know a little bit more on each team individually, but I can speak broadly. I think a lot of it's, mostly garbage, which is what you kind of expect from any new emerging asset class, like 99% is garbage. And then you have that 1%. So when I was looking at everything that was happening earlier this year, I was like, oh, this is garbage. It's really spammy. Like nothing's actually that actionable or informative. And I've kind of held that view until I came across Hustle. And that's purely because it felt like I was interacting with ChatGPT or Grok or Claude or whatever it might be. That's what it felt like, but it felt like it was fine-tuned to crypto, and I loved that. Because when I first found ChatGPT, when 2 months after it launched, I was like, holy smokes, like I can start querying our internal database. As someone who didn't know programming, I all of a sudden could be like an amateur developer, and I could start to query different things and automate workflows. And it was like this huge like productivity gain. And then I came across Hustle, and I've kind of had a similar experience where it's like having another analyst. It really is. Like I've got questions of on-chain, what something that's happening on chain, or whether it's happening with Beep or Boop. Sorry, Beep Boop Bonk. I got that stuck on my head. But when Boop launched it, like I asked it, like, what's going on here? Who's the founder? Volume, all that good stuff, and it spit out an incredible report. In 30 seconds, something that would have taken me some time to do. So it really is like having a co-pilot, an analyst in your pocket, however you want to say it. So that's kind of how I use it a ton for research, and I think it's pretty incredible product.
Yeah, I really appreciate you for saying that. It's been an interesting ride over the last 5 months, I guess, for us as we launched Agent Hustle V1, which was just kind of the AI tool on December 31st. And then what you see here today, the first iteration was almost 2 months ago, March 17th, I believe we went live with V2, which has all of the DeFi kind of overlay and integrations. It's, you know, it's funny as we've been talking with you, and it's interesting. I'm seeing my computer kind of glitch out here. With you, and as I've been talking with you, I've come to find out that there's two different types of users of Agent Hustle. On one side, and the first side is more of the degen side, where it's users who are basically taking AI, analyzing the trenches, and finding specific type of charts to be put right in front of them, and having, instead of having to go sit on Photon or Bonk Bot or whatever these, you know, Telegram service platform providers are, to kind of sift through. The AI does it for them, and then he'll buy it and give them recommendations on when to sell. And then you, as well as I'm seeing another segment of users come in who's basically that don't really use them to trade at all. You just use them to sit here and talk all day and type of analyze. So I'd love to know a little bit about, you know, what type of prompts you go through, and also just, yeah, really kind of a little bit deeper on how specifically he improves your workflow, you know, as you're an analyst, asymmetric, but also it allows you to analyze, you know, other areas of crypto.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I kind of talked about it just now with Boop. When that first launched, you know, I asked it to give me the TLDR on what Boop is, what it is, who is the founder, what's the volume been like so far, contract address, and things like that. And it spit out a fantastic report to me that I shared with the team. I was like, wow, this is incredible. Like, this would, I don't know how long it would have taken me to spin up 30 minutes to an hour. It did in 30 seconds. So I was like, that's pretty incredible. And that, you know, that would have been something I wouldn't have enjoyed to write and do, but I would have done it. And so I think things like that, it's incredible what's going on with Launch Labs. Just, you know, having quite literally conversing with it the same way I would ChatGPT, and talking about, you know, what is asset issuance? Why is that important? And things like that. It does a really good job of understanding those concepts. And then even on the degen side, when I first started messing around with it, I gave it a prompt, you know, give me 3 assets that's launched in the last, you know, 48 hours that you think could, you know, 5x or whatever. And I gave it some other parameters, and the a few of the tokens, well, as I was doing this prompt over time, like Hosiko, I might be saying that wrong. The cat on Let's Flaunt, I might be saying that wrong. Gave me that at like 5 mil, didn't buy it. It gave me Housecoin at 7 mil, didn't buy that. So there's like, it does good on like picking up different things, which is really impressive. Of course, none of this is financial advice. You should buy what it tells you to do. But I was like thoroughly impressed. I was like, it gave me like this full rundown. It gave me its analysis on different technical indicators, social sentiment. And it was really impressive. I was like, this is great. I can see how degens would like this. And I remember when we first got in touch, Jake, I was like, man, I want this integrated into Deck Screener, Bird Eye, Jupiter Pro. I was like, I want that interface. Like, I don't want to just post like a contract address. I want to be able to converse with a Deck Screener, a Jupe Pro, an Axiom, whatever it might be. I want to be able to have this conversation on one platform, because I was like, man, degens would love this.
Yeah.
And then I started using it more so for research.
Totally. I mean, I don't really, you know, I don't have time in the day to like research stuff really, but I'll pop into Hustle, you know, just for the degen stuff. And even on, I mean, if you've watched any of these streams before, like the amount of hits he's had has been like crazy. It's just, and stuff. I mean, the craziest one, and there's been a number. I think I tweeted the other day about like, oh, faded this, you know, Hustle's number one pick of the day, you know. But there have been like, I don't know, since we started doing the live streams, like 20 of those that completely ran. And but some of them, it's just this idea, and I think obviously you know it in the AI space, where they're accessing, you know, Hustle's accessing so much more information than you and I could ever. You know, it would take us years to analyze what he analyzes in minutes, and just reach deeper. You know, it's just incredible. And yeah, my point being that it's just incredible what it is today, and to think where it's going to be in a year or 18 months is incredible. And to think that we're in the space in crypto where people aren't using it yet, we're still like the first users to this, is nuts, because we see it. And it's like talking to, I don't know, talking to my mom and being like how great ChatGPT is. And she's like, it's nothing. And I'm like, bro, no, you don't understand. It's everything, right? This is changing the way we're going to interface with the internet. You know,
and you had that conversation with your mom in 2023, and now 2025 comes around. She's like, hey, I use it every day with my gardening club, whatever it might be. Like, she's using it for planning in some
1,000%. 1,000%. Yeah.
No, it's pretty incredible. And I agree. Like, and some of the developers in the Telegram chat are incredible. Like, I had a question, like I wanted to prompt Hustle, like do a volume analysis on Radium for me. And so I gave it this prompt to do a volume analysis on Radium, and I didn't, have the right APIs to go to CoinGecko. And one of the developers was able to integrate that for me and spit out this incredible volume analysis on Radium that would have taken me an incredible amount of time. And without me prompting it, it also proposed an arbitrage strategy because it found one between two exchanges, between perp and spot. And I was like, what? Like, I didn't ask you for this. And I was like, that's awesome. Like, that's super just like random, but also like good to know. So it's wealth of knowledge is incredible.
We're already getting chats in the various Telegrams and stuff. One question is, how would you go about monetizing monetizing Hustle for users like yourself? It's a good question by Bat.
Me monetize, like trading off
of
it, or you guys?
How would you, if you were the owner of Hustle, your emblem vault? How would you monetize Agent Hustle?
Yeah, I'd want a subscription service at some point. I mean, users are growing steady, but at some point you need, I think you need more users before you aggressively start to monetize. But this is a tool I would pay for. And I think as more developers start to leverage it, like leverage the API. So let's say Axiom or Jupiter or whoever leverages the API and puts that into their terminal, which is what I want. Like I want to be able to do this all on one platform. I'm very much so a one platform guy. Like, give me Jupe Mobile or Phantom or whatever it is. I want to have a little search bar up there like Google, and I can just chat with it, and Agent Hustle's, running in the background is how I think about it. And when things like that start to get built, you should most definitely monetize it, whether that's on API calls, whether that's, this interface we're looking at now, and, it's $20 a month in USDC, or if it's in Tensor, whatever it might be. I haven't spent a whole lot of time thinking about that, but I know you guys have some incredibly smart people working on that. So I'd be curious to hear y'all's thoughts.
Well, we're actually, I was pretty excited when we got the launch lab hooked in, just working with Radium and the team. I just like making that connection, because I'm like you. I'm like, we need to be integrated into, these sites. And so building those relationships now when it's super early, I think is really important. And we're definitely leaning into that. I think it's a great strategy.
I think that's great. And the guys at Radium, I know, are excited. Incredible team over there, by the way.
Yeah, Shizzy's. I have a response for monetization stuff, but we'll go through some of the questions. So Shizzy says, can I ask Hustle what Trevor is researching? Alpha on Alpha.
I don't know.
Prompt, bro. What's the prompt? I think that's the question.
What's the prompt?
It's interesting as we've kind of progressed through building Hustle, we've realized that a lot of users, they want some sort of gamification when it comes to prompting. And what I mean by this is, a lot of users have said, I just basically want to click a button, he buys a token for me, right? Kind of thing. And in the background, you're doing some sort of like randomly generated or suggestive prompt that maybe you can put like some sort of percentage by it, win percentage by it, or something like that. So we've been definitely thinking and considering on how to go about that. Also, on top of this, with the Agent Hustle platform, he saves all the trading strategies that people are creating. And so we think about ways to where a user, seems like he's struggling a little bit right now, but where users can basically share their strategies with other individuals on the platform, and then maybe share a portion of like the trading fees or something like that on that. So it's something that we've been, trying to consider and think about. It's actually kind of fun.
That is, especially
think about it as like prompt.fun or something like that, right?
Yeah, no, that would be cool. And I almost think about that prompt. I forget the website URL, but y'all have a prompt cheat sheet essentially. I know it says prompt cheat sheet down here, but like the actual prompt cheat sheet where, you know, you've got pre-canned 20 prompts. Like I'm thinking almost like a Hugging Face interface where you've got, you know, these different prompts that people like, hey, I created this prompt. It worked for this strategy. It has a 42% win rate or whatever. I put that there. You use it. So you copy it and you paste it here, and whatever is, you know, 10% of your win, 10% of the fees, 10% of winnings, you know, 2%, you're a hedge fund all of a sudden, you know, you're 2% and you take 2%, 20%, whatever it is of that person's winnings would be interesting. Because I know like Olaf at Polychain has kind of talked about this, is like, how can you have degens essentially run their own hedge funds? And that'd be an interesting way to do it. It's like, hey, I copy Trevor's prompt and I put it here and it's got a 43% weight, whatever. You know, I get a 10x off something. I'm at home asleep. They print, I print. Like, that's kind of cool. That's gamification there.
Yeah, I do think that's kind of where the future for a lot of this is going. So Nalak says, or not like, does Hustle go strictly by prompt you give it, or even fine tune your prompt? Yeah, I mean, honestly, the thing that I tell people is when you're talking with Hustle, talk to him literally like he's a person. He can adjust his formatting based off of whatever that you'd like. He can edit or he can even suggest how to fine tune the prompt itself. And he's really good at it. It's really like the cool thing about AI as well is that they're lost my train of thought. So the cool thing about AI is that they're also tech support. So whenever anybody has any issues with Hustle, whether, you know, he's kind of timing out or whatever the case is, they say, hey, you know, just talk to him and he'll help.
As Shannon says, just ask him.
You okay, bro?
Yeah, no kidding.
Totally.
Yeah,
no, I'll just add to that. I mean, the same way you would interact with Grok or ChatGPT or Claude, like that's the same way you should interact with Hustle. And again, like the better prompts you give, like the better responses you get. It's the same with ChatGPT. If you ask ChatGPT a generic question, you're gonna get a generic answer. Be a little bit more specific.
Yep. Yeah, but I need to up my prompting game. I'm not the greatest at it, to be honest. I'm very kind of lazy. But what I did wanted to go back to was, you know, talking about subscriptions and monetization of Hustle. So we haven't shared this yet publicly, but to a few people. So this is kind of our developer approach to getting Hustle integrated into everything. And so Shannon, the Gigabrain behind it, he built a single endpoint approach to Agent Hustle. And once we publicly share this, there'll probably be some sort of monetization, but we are allowing developers and individuals to kind of test it to see the cool things that people are building already. But with the single approach here, you know, you basically just plug in one API code or one API endpoint, and you have Hustle, the whole package. Basically, everything that you see on the Agent Hustle website, you'll get inside of your studio, whatever you kind of integrate them to. We've seen things with Telegram, email, Discord. I believe there was somebody who's building some sort of application on top of it. So that's kind of just the early kind of use case for it. But it's really, really exciting to see because what's also cool is we are also Emblem Vault behind this. So not only will you get Agent Hustle, but you also will get a wallet and all of the trading tools that we have on agenthustle.ai. So you could get, you know, swaps on Solana, you could get the Pump Fund app, the Launch Lab app, the Alpha app, and pretty much any of the LPs and everything that's integrated, you can go build, because we've actually got we've had a lot of different teams, a lot of different variety of teams reach out to us, people from, you know, swap platforms to LST platforms to trading groups to a handful of trading groups actually, to
traditional finance companies too.
Traditional finance. Yeah. People just really trying to kind of understand what it is. And so, you know, kind of what I see here is that just like in crypto, where there's 3 or 4 companies that are essentially kind of the equivalent of the router of their ecosystem, they basically win the game. And what I mean by this is like Uniswap is basically the router or the DEX router for all EVM. So all EVM transactions, whether you're on Base or whether you're on ETH mainnet or you're on whatever other EVM chain, all the transactions basically go through Uniswap. And on Solana, it's the same thing with Jupiter. And so outside of even the DEX space, you have Chainlink, which kind of does the router for oracles. And then on the NFT side, OpenSea has Seaport, and they're basically the router. So every single NFT transaction goes through their order book, which is Seaport, which was always what I thought was funny when people would say Seaport, OpenSea is going to die. And I was like, well, then the whole NFT industry is going to implode if that's the case. Like OpenSea is never going to go away. And we think that there's actually an opportunity here in the AI space to basically do the same thing with, the crypto AI project. And I've only seen a handful of teams even suggest that they're interested in this type of thing, like they're building, and we've built it now. So it's exciting to see kind of where people will take it over the next, 3 months or so. The space seems to move very, very fast.
Incredibly fast. And just back on the monetization topic and other teams using an integration and whatnot. Like I picture a world in which we're like, take a Bloomberg or a FactSet or whatever it might be, or Blockworks. Like Bloomberg and FactSet, what you can do is you can have this homepage and you can have these pre-canned reports you get every morning. And so what I'm picturing is you've got teams with these flow data, like take Jupiter, it's got its router. Like it could produce these various reports pre-canned every morning where it's like, this is where flows went. Why did flows go this way? What launched yesterday to cause these flows? Like that would be like hugely advantageous for people in research. It's like, okay, so we had Boop launch however long ago. What happened? Give me the TLDR on that flows. What was Twitter like? How did they respond? And like you have these like essentially little grids where like you get these pre-canned 6 reports you get every morning as your like morning digest. And I see that being like awesome and hugely valuable to a lot of people.
Way more customized than you would get. I mean, just completely customized to you and what you're interested in trading, like just completely customized. I think that's the thing that's like the complete change from like traditional finance or anything that the AI layer, which is going to be just like completely customized for you, I think is really, really exciting for sure.
Yeah, I do want to show another example as well. So from a builder, somebody created something the other day. It's called the Hustle analysis room. And so they basically came in and I think they plugged in some of their own data to it. And from just yesterday, you see there's like 30 or 40 posts on here from just, Solana trends, hot tokens. They've got NFT data plugged into here, Camino Finance. I saw things from Radium. There was like a tensor thesis on here. And it goes on to include, institutional consolidation of Bitcoin. And so they're definitely plugging in, I think, a few other data feeds. But this is just like one type of thing. And this is free, right? So I assume whoever built this, the beta free analysis room, eventually is probably going to start building towards some sort of paid group. Or else I don't know why you'd put free unless you're just trying to get people really to kind of test it out.
No, and that's what they should do. This is what you want. You want people to build products on top of this and then charge and create businesses on top of it. Like that's what you want. That's the end goal. And like those reports, like I've seen some from, I don't know if it was him, but other guys in that Telegram chat that are phenomenal. Like they are incredible prompt engineers and they know how to use the MCP endpoints and integrate all these systems until you get these phenomenal responses that are highly value add. Like all these other agents, you can see what whale bought what, but why? Like I don't care like what whale bought what or what their win rate is. Like that doesn't excite me. Give me insightful reports. Short, just like that. Takes me a minute to read. That's what I want.
Yep. Yeah, he can get pretty wordy, so you definitely have to you definitely have to be suggestive to shorten it up. Yeah, he's a talker, man. I'm a talker as well. Shizzy says headless hustle will change how crypto companies work. Yeah, it can take an average crypto project and make it crazy good. Yeah, exactly. And then Nalek says, right now it's free. Are we ever going to see a stage where users degens will have to pay a fee? Yeah, that's going to come. So kind of like some statistics. And the reason why it was free to start, first, kind of just new, trying to understand the market, trying to understand our users. You don't want to paywall it immediately, and before users really know, what to use it for. I guess you could say you got to get them hooked on, almost like you're a drug dealer, I guess, right? You get them hooked on the supply, and then they'll never leave. But we wanted
goal. That's the goal. You want to build an addicting product. Like 100%. That's what you want to build. Like that's what we built in Web 2, and those are the best businesses. Go look at Facebook, Instagram, yep. TikTok. Like they're addicting platforms. Like ChatGPT. Like imagine not paying for a ChatGPT subscription. Like if you don't, like you are behind. Like period. Like you should be using it. If you're not using it, you need to be using it. Like, you need to be using these tools, and this is one of the few in crypto that's actually been helpful. A lot of them are just noisy, and I end up muting. So,
so yeah, we're actually going through the different types of numbers and understanding. For us, there's kind of a few things. First, we posted today that we're integrating sign in with Google X and
let's go
Apple. Yeah, that was a suggestion, which is a good one. So we're actually going to be so when you went onto the platform initially, you had these kind of like directives that were there. There was a few reasons why we did that. Well, first was that, right, for these, and they were kind of mandatory to go through. The reason why we did that is because we wanted real users. And so, to click 6 buttons, deposit one SOL and click 6 buttons, we know you're a real user, right? You're not a bot who's doing that. And so from that, once you're on the platform, we can start understanding what direction to build based off of the real user activity. So you could think of it as somewhat as like adding friction. That was done intentionally, but also it allowed people to kind of understand how to use it. But next, once we have this integration with the easy sign-in, we're actually making all of these directives optional, outside of obviously creating a vault, because you have to create it to use the platform. So essentially opening the floodgates to anyone where you don't even have to deposit any money. You just kind of go in and use that. So we'll see kind of a new flood of users come in and try to understand what they're doing. On top of that, from the development side of things, we have to make him more efficient. That's like one of our primary goals. I've learned these tool calls, dude, are super expensive. That's
the funny. We've chatted a bunch, but it's like, the amount we use. I use ChatGPT every day. I was talking to my brother today, and he uses it all day long, right? And it's like the thought that they're charging you $20, but they're probably funding you for, double, or if you're using it all day, every day, there's no way it's only costing them $20. The amount of fees involved in running these things gets very expensive very quickly. We've learned that fast. For sure.
Yeah. So we're working on optimizing it now that we got a lot of the kind of DeFi stuff in, and then once it's optimized, and we have a little bit more users. So yesterday we hit an all-time high of 252 daily active users. And then we hit close to 400 sessions, which is, I think, probably the more important statistic, actually. And the average session time is about 16 minutes. So you get a lot of people coming in and hanging out. So it's, that's sticky, right? It means it's sticky. People are using it. Yesterday's trading volume was around 25,000, I think, last time I saw in one day. So I think that was also an all-time high in terms of volume. So, things are doing well. And then we're looking at the numbers and deciding, how do you charge a retail user versus how do you charge a developer, right? It's kind of two different situations where, retail likes subscriptions. It's just like, you pay $20 a month or $50 a month or whatever the premium is, and you just call it a day. Where developers, you have to be a little bit more specific, right? Because the developers are people who are building a business, so they have a little bit more of a bottom line. So we're probably going to go something more towards like just what the AI, what developers are charged on the AI side of things, where it's like this cost per 1 million tokens would probably be something similar to this cost per tool call. Essentially, is probably something more like it. And then once you get that kind of stable situation down, then you apply the tokenomics on top of it. Then that's when you get fun with Tensor. You could do different things like staking or, pay with Tensor. You could do things like deflationary tokenomics. Like there's a lot of different options that you can do. And in the background, we're actually building a Hustle hedge fund where Hustle can potentially, hopefully, trade with his own shitcoin, essentially, right? So what you see over down here on the bottom left, it says Agent Hustle's wallet, and it has 6 million Tensor into it. And we deposited that literally in like the first week or two, I think. And we're like, eventually at some point, he's going to be autonomous and he's going to trade Tensor. And he's probably just going to sit and buy back the token, right? The whole goal that he'd be programmed is to just grow your Tensorium stack. Right. So that could be essentially a buyback program, right? Jupiter and a lot of these companies have big buyback programs. But if you could do that in an AI automated way, I think that makes it a lot more fun. And then the social aspect too and stuff. So there's so much we can do, but we are getting close to that pay period, just not yet. Because also one final thing, I guess, from the degen side of things, right? So Trevor is using it from the analyst side of things. But the people who are using and trading the platform, the biggest request they've wanted is auto sells on any type of transaction. So conditional sells, where it's like, find the top 2 tokens that can 2x, buy them and then sell it once it rips 50% automatically. And you can do that all in one single prompt. We'd like to do that. And once you have that there, then I think you can probably place it a subscription in front of that, because that's something that a lot of people will want. So one final question from Now Lake: can the agent provide info on projects that have not yet been launched on the market but has the potential to do well? So something like a pre-sale thing. That's interesting. I guess it depends on where the information is being provided. So with these agents, the holy grail of all of it is where the data is coming from, and I'm learning all about this on my own, as well as a lot of different people are. So I'm assuming the pre-sale information is probably coming from Twitter or X, I would assume, but it could also come inside of Telegrams, or it could come inside of a Discord, or it could be posted on Reddit. So individually, we'd have to, pull information from there. And then if that's the case, then yeah, I think Hustle's probably A1 in analyzing information. So that's our goal, to plug in as much information as possible. And that's like one of the things that we want to do. It's just we're a little bit of a smaller team, so we can move nimbly, can't move nearly as fast or with the vast amount of resources as some of the other teams do, but that just has to make us work smarter.
Yeah. And I think that's actually a really good question that they just had, because you just had Jupiter announce a proposal to partner with Huma Finance to allow stakers to get in at a $75 million valuation. So like my initial question is, okay, what was their last valuation? What was Huma's last valuation? What's their ARR? Like to figure out is, hey, as a staker of Jupe, should I be allocating to this and getting into this? I mean, you have to lock it, I believe it was 3 months, but it's like, I think that's super interesting there. I don't know if it comes from Crunchbase or PitchBook or wherever those valuation figures come from, but if you can tap into that, and then I can go in and prompt and say, hey, Jupiter is doing XYZ. I can get in at Huma Finance at $75 million. Do I do like evaluation? Do I want to do that? What's the percent increase from its latest round? Like that's interesting there. I mean, then you start to really tap into the venture funds and things like that as they're doing their due diligence and valuations and things like that. That's cool. That'd be awesome. It's a good question.
It is a good question. So for fun here, I asked it because we did just integrate Launch Lab, and also Trevor's been talking about this a lot on the timeline. So I wanted to see what Hustle says and then get his opinion. I asked him about the bonk versus pump fund war. Basically, the prompt was, give me all the alpha news that you have on bonk versus pump fund today. Compare the numbers of tokens launched, volume traded, and any juicy rumors that may exist. So the numbers, it says that Bonk's achieved over 50,000 token launches in the past 2 weeks with approximately 6,800 tokens in the most recent period. Pump Fund had 37,000 total tokens created, with reports showing unprecedented 11,000 tokens in the last 24 hours. So numbers are a little bit down. I think I saw a post the other day where it was like 20 and 15 or something of that nature. The flagship Bonk token. So it's just talking about Bonk itself. Volume. Let's see. So Pump Fun. Platform-wide volume isn't directly reported. The ecosystem has surpassed a $5 billion market cap milestone while generating $650K in fees in the last 24 hours. I wonder if you got that.
That's definitely down. We've seen those numbers be much higher. The fees.
The fees, yeah,
much higher.
I saw Launchcoin had generated like 5 or 6 million in fees in the last 24 hours. So maybe a lot of the trenches just moved over to the new Launchpad.
I can't even keep up how many there are now. I mean, it's like, I don't know what happened this last week, but it just seems like it's game on or game over. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I know. I feel like, some of these charts really do look like the banana zone. You got these tokens ripping to 20 million in 10 minutes. Like you're either getting a 20 to 80x or you're down 99%. There's no in between.
Yeah.
And it's actually ridiculous because 2 days ago, like no one was talking, or very few people were talking about Believe, and now it's all over the timeline. It's all anyone talks about. And these tokens are just absolutely ripping. Like, I don't know if you guys saw, like, according to DeFi Llama, which I think most data is subpar. I'll be nice and say subpar, but they said Meteor generated like 17 million in fees today alone already, which is just absolutely ridiculous. Like, that is insane.
That's a huge number. Yeah.
We lose like perspective on how much that is. It's like, we just, they made 17 million. Like, that's nothing. It's like, dude, what businesses on earth like make that kind of money? It's just like, it's crazy. It's crazy.
Yeah, absolutely ridiculous. And the fees on some of these are ridiculous too. Like early on in those bonding curves. I mean, but then again, degens don't care because they're going for a 20x or a 0. So what's an additional 5-10% fee? Like, they don't care.
Yeah, I completely agree. So one final thing I had to say. So when we did our 2025 predictions, I said the Launchpad bubble was going to top in the second half of the year. So that was posted on December 31st. So it does seem like it might be heading to that. A lot of those predictions actually are turning out to be true. A few wrong, but majority good. So some of the juicy rumors here I asked, says there's reports that 600 million has been extracted from the Pump Fun ecosystem. That's just the people, hating on Pump Fun, talking about them being vultures. Bonk has an upcoming conference. I didn't know that they had a conference. Competitive dynamics. So Launchcoin, currently number 2 on Solana trending tokens, has been identified as a new competitor alongside Bonk, but with both rapidly gaining market share against Pump Fun. Yeah, so I guess it is what we were just saying, that Launchcoin is taking some of that market share. Pump Fun now matches competitors' daily token graduations. Oh, wow. Indicating that the performance is in token quality metrics, and Let's Bonk revenue grow. So Let's Bonk.fun, Bonk's platform has generated 2 million in fees in the last 2 weeks, up 200K in its first 3 days. Trevor, what's your thought on the Launchpad wars? We just mentioned, right, that it's feeling a little frothy. You have Launchcoin coming out, but how long does this go for? And also your thesis, you talk a lot about this idea of, like, it's not as much about the battle of Launchpad, it's actually the battle over token issuance.
Yep, correct. And first off, that report from Hustle I thought was great. I don't know if the numbers are exact, whatever, but like directionally, that's fantastic. Like, that's the direction this needs to be going, and it should be integrated into every terminal across the board, every deck screen or whatever it might be. It should be integrated across the board because that's incredibly valuable and saves a lot of people a lot of time and a lot of misinformation too. So I think that's great. And as far as the Launchpad wars, we wrote about this in our asymmetric market update that was out a week and a half ago. This Launchpad war is super exciting, but what's more important is asset issuance, because a lot of the assets being issued on Solana and most chains just aren't valuable assets. Like, a lot of them are memes. Like, those are a lot of the valuable tokens, and if it's not, it's a worthless governance token, which does nothing. So like, as more valuable assets come on chain, whether that be equities, RWAs, whatever it might be, as those assets come on chain, who owns those? Like, who owns the issuance there? Who controls the flow? And that's why this is so important. And this is where personally, I think Radium has a leg up. Is everything's open source. Pump Fund doesn't even have an IDL for their pump swap. So like the odds of getting other teams to integrate are very low. Like it's not open source. So I think the composability favors Radium. And I think you're starting to see that. You saw Boop come over. Why they did have their own launch pad, everything migrates to Radium, their AMM. And I think that's what's important. Like as a DEX, you could be tossed out of the trading stack pretty easily. Like you don't really have a moat unless you own asset issuance. You own asset issuance, then you control flow. Not just for meme coins, but then you also own RWAs and things like that. And that's where you have these great businesses begin to form. Like that's what I'm more excited about. Like whatever happens here between Believe, Pump Fund, Radium, Bonk, I'm excited to see it play out, and I'm excited there's some real competition there. And I personally enjoy teams that are more open source and have composability and aren't max extracting. So
do you think that like Solana is going to be that layer for real world assets, or do you think it's going to be Ethereum, or do you think it's just going to be, L2 private blockchains? Like what's your
I think it's funny when I was, institutional world, TradFi world, everyone said it'd be, banks would launch their own chain. Banks would launch their own chain. There's no shot they're going to go use XRP for settlement. There's no shot they're going to use Ethereum for DeFi or finance, whatever it might be. And while I think there's actually a lot of truth in that, I do think strides are being made on Solana specifically. Like you saw it mid last year, I believe, with Hamilton Lane launching a fund on Solana. Like things like that are super interesting, where you have these big institutions starting to dabble. So, and I do believe it's going to be Solana. I think they've got the better infrastructure, especially for like speed. Like it's what are you going to do if you're BlackRock and all of a sudden you can't make a transaction for clients because gas fees are high on ETH? So like currently, like ETH couldn't support that at scale. Like you could do some small things that are happening there now, but at scale, I don't think it can happen anywhere else besides Solana right now, as it stands today, and as things are built today. Like Solana just has the infrastructure to handle that.
Yeah, I mean, certainly on the L1 level for sure.
Most definitely. I mean, where are they going to go? Base?
Yeah, no. My feeling, and this is just somebody very much a vibe trader. But my general feeling or thought process was, okay, if whatever BlackRock wants to put assets on chain, they're going to have an L2 on Ethereum or something like that, which they completely control, right? Because if it's like a real world asset, or it's a stock or something, they want something where they can have backsies, they can do all this sort of stuff where they basically control the assets. I don't know. That was always my thought process, but
I think there's a lot of truth in that. They do want control, and I think you saw this happen. Like Solana, I'm drawing a blank on the token extension. Is the one for institutions where they could essentially control like what wallet it goes to. So like, if you're JP Morgan or BlackRock, you go, hey, my client here, you're going to create this wallet. They're going to use TipLink or Google or some passkey, and they're going to have this wallet they don't know it's a wallet.
Right.
And what they're going to be able to do is be able to receive their T-bills or transact in their T-bills. Like you've got these ultra high net worth individuals with a ton of illiquidity in the private markets right now. So what do they want to do? They want liquidity. Well, T-bills, like why they are liquid, like what if when people need cash, they need cash now. And so you want people who are able to transact really quick. And I think what happens is you end up using these token standards on Solana where I can say, hey, I'm a client of JP Morgan. I can receive this T-bill and I can go however it might flow. Like I think there's actually a good chance that does take place, just because I don't think there's not a whole lot of people in crypto. So like our BlackRock, JP Morgan, who are they going to go hire to build this internally? Like I think that's a challenge for them. And I think with the token standards on Solana, they're going to be able to do that. And they're still going to be able to control that environment a lot. Like they might not be able to roll back the chain and make changes for a client who fat fingers, but like they'll be able to help out. There'll be, confirmations and things like that. So I'm optimistic.
Do you ever venture out into the Bitcoin ecosystem? That's where we came from. And I talked with you privately about this, right? Because at Emblem, we're the leading, you call it NFT bridge, is like, I guess the easiest way to classify it. So we're developing on Ethereum and also in the Bitcoin ecosystem the last few years. Solana was kind of a first venture. It's been a lot of fun and eye-opening. Just a whole new user base, a lot younger user base, and a lot more the attention is a little bit more scarce, I guess, or a little bit more spread across. Do do you get to venture over into Bitcoin? What's your thought about things like runes and ordinals?
I don't really spend any time. That's a great question for Lucas or Dan, and they're going to be able to give you a great response, but I wouldn't do it justice. So I won't, I'll pass.
But personally, you're not interested in any of it?
I don't.
Interesting.
I spend most of my time in Solana, Sui, what's happening there, just to keep.
He's in the trenches, bro.
Where users are is where I'll focus, and where I think users might go is where I'll focus. But right now, Lucas and Dan have got that covered, and so as things come up that are notable, they will bring that to the team's attention. But I
it's
rely
interesting.
on those gigabrains.
You mentioned users, and I do believe the actual like real users are on Solana. What's your take on like Base right now? I mean, I just get the feeling, and look, most of crypto is fake, right? But I just get the feeling that Base is especially fake, and I don't know. I'd love your kind of overview of it, or how you.
I mean, it's Coinbase. I mean, there's some interesting products there with Morpho, I believe. Am I saying that right? Morpho, Jake?
Morpho.
There's some interesting stuff they're doing. Aerodrome's profitable.
Aerodrome, yeah.
Yeah, Aerodrome. Thank you. The other thing, but other than that, I'm still, waiting to see what comes from it.
Yeah.
Waiting to see what comes from it. Not actively participating. I'll do trades here and there, airdrop farming personally, but that's about it. Nothing super interesting yet.
Yeah,
you can play the DEX play, if you want to own that, just to window dress your fund and say you've got exposure to Base, you sure go own that asset. But outside of that, I think I'd probably rather own Radium. So.
Yeah, Radium's crushing it.
For me, it was my friend Michael Lee had a good kind of post the other day, and he's a big Base guy. He actually was the one who, tricked Grok into launching that meme coin, and so he's a big Base guy. But what he's learned that if you aren't in good graces with Jesse and the guys who are over there, it's they're the KOLs which drive everything on Base. And if you're not in their good graces, you don't get listed, and nothing happens for you. And you basically, have a really, really hard time on Base. And it's do you want to be a part of this completely kind of centralized, thing going on over there? And so, yeah, it's just some perspective, which I thought was pretty good.
Yeah. I mean, I can't speak, but that sounds very political, and is what's happened a lot with ETH. That's why a lot of teams were a little bit slow to deploy other products, is things were just way too philosophical and political. I want builders who just execute, period.
Yeah.
I want them to ship products that people want, that are sticky, and that I would use. And that's where I'm excited. And I haven't seen any of that elsewhere. So
yeah. No, and that'll come to Solana at some point in time. But the question is, how long? Right. We saw this happen with Bitcoin, then it came down to Ethereum. You mentioned that you are looking into the Sui ecosystem, which I find interesting. I've been kind of looking over there. I haven't really made any dabbles. And just for the sake of conversation, I asked Hustle about Sui to see if he actually knew any type of information. So we talked about a few tokens. Sui NS and Deep Book token, I guess, has a $2 billion market cap. I don't really know too much about it. But the thing that he mentioned, which is what I wanted to talk about, is the Move VM, right? So it says Sui continues to leverage its Move VM programming language, which offers enhanced security and resource-oriented program compared to Solidity. So what we've actually seen over the last few years, every cycle, there's a new essentially programming language or a virtual machine that ends up taking over. So Bitcoin, right? It's C++, it's this kind of proof of work mining system. And then Ethereum came along and obviously created the proliferator, merged, I guess, smart contracts and blockchain together to where it they created Solidity programming language. And then the next cycle, which was last cycle, Solana came on and they created, the Solana VM, but then it was in Rust. And now, the next generation, quote unquote, next generation of blockchains is all surrounded Move VM, which is Sui. I believe Monad is also Move VM, and I think a few others. So how do you go about, analyzing the Sui ecosystem, and what advantages would it have over Solana, or what type of market do you think it can position itself to overcome? I did see that it has had a lot of gaming announcements recently, but just your perspective, what you're seeing over there.
Again, I wish I could give a better response, but Not going to be able to give that deep of a response, but one thing I will add is like if you look at flows that CoinShares put together on different crypto products, like Sui has more year-to-date inflows than Solana. Like that is noteworthy. Like, you follow the flows and it's noteworthy that the Sui products have more flows than Solana year-to-date. So that's kind of where I'll leave it. So like we pay attention from that standpoint, and where their value accrues to Sui, and like it's seen as a beta play. Like go look at X and in Telegram chats. Like it's seen as a beta play, and it's a purely narrative play. And so where does value accrue? Do you want to go out the risk curve and own like Bluefin or things like that? Probably. I don't know. I wish I could give a better response, but I'm keeping an eye on it from a distance.
Well, I'm just excited for when Hustle is like fully integrated on all these chains and whatever. Some meme coin's about to pop, and I can just buy it through Hustle and don't have to worry about. I don't even know what wallet do they have on Sui. I don't even know.
Or exactly, or even better, when you're on a podcast and someone asks you about an ecosystem you don't know about, you can get the TI.
There you go.
You can spit out a really good response for you. That'd be awesome.
Exactly.
Yeah.
What's
no
going
kidding.
On with ordinals? Please tell me quick.
So ordinals are coming. They're coming back. They obviously were kind of discounted is for dead. I think the thing with ordinals is that it's a slower ecosystem. It's more for collectors than it is for traders, and I don't think that is attractive to the majority of crypto goers, or at least today's kind of cycle where we're in the attention cycle still, but slowly transitioning into the intelligence cycle, which will be based around artificial intelligence. And so the attention doesn't really work on Bitcoin because it has 10-minute block times. But what you see is a lot of, a little bit of an older crowd kind of hangs around Bitcoin. I don't think there's an issue with that. I just think people have to know, kind of what you're getting yourself into. The permanence idea, people like. I think the main narrative behind it is Bitcoin is, a $2 trillion asset. So therefore liquidity will flow into the ecosystem, the native digital asset ecosystem. I don't think that's really happened yet because the majority of it's sitting on exchanges or kind of locked into certain types of areas, into ETFs and stuff like that. And a lot of people don't like to spend their Bitcoin. I think it'll be fine overall. I think it will have gains, but it's not for, I guess you would say, the individual who likes to move assets back and forth consistently. It's kind of more of like a buy and hold and talk and shitpost all day. Where for some people, I'm a millennial, kind of like millennials and up tend to gravitate towards ordinals, and I'd say like Gen Z, and I guess even some of the like 13 or 14-year-olds in the alpha generation tend to kind of gravitate to Solana.
For sure.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And yeah, Dan and Lucas could speak a lot more on the ordinals.
It's fun. I was saying, I have fun on ordinals and the Bitcoin ecosystem. There's some love there. I've gotten into the space in 2016, so I've been around for a while. So there's obviously some kind of nostalgia there.
Yep.
And I just kind of enjoy it. Also with Emblem Vault, like where we move around rare pepes. Have you ever traded rare pepes before?
I haven't.
No, you haven't.
No.
So rare pepes are, I guess you would say it's kind of like the top 5 most valuable collection on NFT collection across the board, but it started on Bitcoin on a platform called Counterparty that started in 2014. I guess you could say it was like kind of one of the first layer 2s, I guess is just like the easiest way to describe it, that launched on top of Bitcoin. And yeah, it's just kind of where I started in that community. Like the kind of meme factory really started there before it got commoditized and capitalized on.
Yeah. And I guess this would be probably a good question. Maybe other people don't know. What's your story, Jake? How did you get into crypto?
I had graduated from UNLV. I live out in Vegas, born and raised in Vegas. I had graduated from UNLV and I was working at a nightclub at the time. And I got home from a nightclub one day and I was scrolling a subreddit in 2016 called Wall Street Bets. And inside of Wall Street Bets, this is obviously way before, right? It kind of blew up. There was somebody had noted to follow this subreddit called r/Ethereum project at the time. and I was looking into it. I had actually just started trading Forex at the time, and I found Ethereum to be super interesting. I never really put together that you can actually kind of buy the asset. I just thought like, oh, cool, right? Smart contract seems cool. Disintermediation, like that kind of makes sense. And then after a few months of following it, the price then got up to like $70 or $80. And I was like, oh, what? You can actually buy this thing? That's kind of crazy. And so I'd bought my first Ethereum, I think like January of 2017 when it had like just crossed $100. And from there, dude, just played the whole ICO mania and had a great time. Lost all of it at the very end, put it all into an ICO and lost every Bitcoin that I had earned over that entire cycle, getting greedy at the top of the market. And yeah, just continue to build. And then in 2021, NFTs took off and I found a lot of interest in it. I'd actually owned an antique store in real life. And so this idea of like historical NFTs were taking off at the time. And that's actually where I met Adam, was in the historical NFT community. Adam was a little bit of a larger figure than me, but between both of us together, I'd say we were kind of like top 5, I guess, KOLs at the time, although KOL wasn't a term at the time. And we both wanted to build a historical NFT marketplace. So think of like a Sotheby's or a Christie's, but for NFTs. And ultimately, we ended up joining Emblem Vault because of that. And then that's kind of where we are today. We joined Emblem Vault, and then we realized within like a month that Emblem Vault was something much larger than just in a way to, trade historical NFTs. It was literally the kind of pipeline to trade, or the pipeline to move any NFT to any chain. And from there, then when AI took off, we were like, oh, fuck, this is going to change everything. And so we kind of dove into there, and that's where we are today, almost 9 years later. It's kind of crazy. I think I found Ethereum like summer of 2016, so almost 9 years ago. Kind of wild.
That's awesome. That's
Crazy.
Super cool.
Yeah. And I think Adam has a similar story with like ICOs, I think, as well.
Totally. The ICOs were definitely like the thing. I mean, I knew about crypto long before that, but having done actually like Kickstarters for just my regular in real life companies, that idea of like raising globally for companies was just like so attractive. I still think it's like the crypto superpower, which hasn't been fully realized. This idea of like, raising globally through tokens is just was amazing for me. And so, yeah, I can't even, I was thinking the other day, it's like, what wallet did I use? Cause I tried to create a company around like launching tokens back then, never did any business, but I actually like built website around it and stuff. And I think was it a Mist wallet we were using back then? I can't even remember, in like 2016 or 17, but I actually, when the historic NFT stuff was going off, I had a podcast here in Costa Rica about living, moving, and doing business in Costa Rica, and I pivoted it to basically a historic NFT like podcast. And I actually interviewed Shannon, the founder of Emblem Vault, because it was like one of the things that was kind of popping off was like, oh my God, rare Pepes, you can buy them on OpenSea. And so I had Shannon on, and Shannon like sold me this vision of like all assets, all available to be purchased by the user, and they don't even know where they're buying them, don't know what they're selling. They don't have to care about the chains, meaning it's just, what we call abstract the entire, blockchain infrastructure away, was what his vision was. And I was like, oh my God, this is it. And so when Jake and I, became part of Emblem Vault, I mean, it just, the vision of what it actually is so much bigger than just, trading NFTs on OpenSea, right? Which is like what we got into. It's like, no, all assets, one user interface, which is what Hustle is. One user interface, all assets available at all times. And the user doesn't even have to know what's happening. Like that is the bigger vision. And I think it's just like, until AI kind of came about and we fully realized what it was, I thought it was almost going to be impossible. It's going to be too clunky for the users, like all these wallets, all these chains. But now it's like, no, this is the way it's going to actually happen. And yeah, the last 6 months has been like this whirlwind of a holy cow, man. we are on like the cusp of, this is the future of not only crypto, but all Web3. Like this is actually it. Has been incredible over the last 6 months.
So I got Hustle to explain ordinals. Actually pretty good, simple explanation of it's a protocol allows for inscription of digital content, right? So unlike traditional NFTs, ordinals are inscribed into the blockchain. Goes in with some key features. Even came in with some recent developments. That there was $11 million in trading volume on Magic Eden. The British Museum has partnered with Asprey Studio. I think Asprey Studio is who On-Chain Monkey was partnering with. I think right. The Bugatti wasn't that Bugatti or one of the car companies. Ordinals 2.0 has reached its highest level. Yeah, it's a lot of trading volume recently. So popular collections, Bitcoin punks, ordinal punks. And then I asked him about Emblem Vault and Rare Pepes. So I probably what I should have done is just sit in the background while we talk and just I have him answer more questions. I always, during these shows, I always try to cater Hustle to kind of whoever the guest is. So if it's DGen, we do more kind of like buying stuff. And if it's more like somebody like an analyst, try to do a little bit more of kind of the information. So he says, Emblem Vault and Rare Pepe's intersection of cross-chain innovation and NFT history. Emblem Vault functions as a container for crypto assets, allowing users to package multiple tokens, NFTs, or digital assets from various blockchains. It solves critical interoperability problem in the blockchain space. Yeah, I like to compare Emblem to kind of like an Amazon or a UPS, where what Amazon does is they take a package, right? Think of that as like the package is an NFT, and inside the package, you can put any type of asset you want. So what Emblem Vault does is it takes an NFT and you can put digital items inside of that NFT. You could put Bitcoin, you could put a CryptoPunk, you could put whatever kind of meme coin that you want. And then you can ship it from any blockchain or from one blockchain to another, just kind of like what Amazon does or what UPS does. So Emblem, we have the 2.0 launching on Base, moving eScription collections over. That's an Ethereum NFT standard. Recently we're going to be launching Taproot Wizards in USD and ETH through the Gandhi partnership that they had announced. Keys is that Emblem Vault protocol token that's TGing at the end of the year. And then we did have some significant sales. There was an FD card that sold and it feels good, man. Emblem Vault played a crucial role in preserving the Rare Pepe history. And this is kind of the Rare Pepe history of 2016 to 2018. Right, it's based off of Pepe the Frog. There's 1,774 different cards. And I think the market cap for Rare Pepe, I think, is around like $500 million or something like that. Like we could go on and on about that, but
like just that analysis is great. I was talking to someone yesterday, like what they were like, why do you like Hustle? And I was just like, I can, know something about anything really quickly in crypto. Like I can get as deep as I want, or I could just get the TLDR. And I was like, that's why I love Hustle. And that's why I use it all the time. Whether I've got questions on some meme coin or how Huma Finance works or credit spreads, like it does it all. And so I was like, it's just kind of like that analyst in your pocket. Looking forward to the mobile app.
Fuck yeah. Yeah. That's the goal, man. That is the goal. We had the Telegram bots like halfway done. Once we get some of this kind of key infrastructure built out, then the mobile app seems to be kind of the primary. I think it's almost, we're at like 60% desktop, 40% mobile apps from the statistics. Wow. Use. So it's actually quite high for something that's not like a native mobile app.
Totally. I'm surprised by that. Yeah.
Yeah. They're just using it inside of the Phantom browser application. So pretty cool. Trev, I will wrap it up here because I know you're also a little bit busy and analyzing and stuff, but dude, I always appreciate you for supporting Hustle, also just being somebody who's genuinely interested. You've helped us out a lot, and I know we're going to continue to kind of work together. I don't know if you have any final comments or anything, but I think I have answered all of the questions that I see kind of floating around underneath the chat and everything.
No, this was a blast, and I would just say to anyone listening, like, go try it out. Like it's fantastic. Like it really was like a ChatGPT moment for me. I was like, shoot, I can know, like Joe asked me a question about something that maybe I don't know. Good thing I've got Hustle. Good to go. Try it out. Should try it out.
Boom. Appreciate it. Yeah, appreciate it. And everyone that watched. We'll be back. I think tomorrow we're doing another stream at the same time, 5 p.m. Pacific, with Soul Maniac, who is a little bit of a DJ. And so we'll probably be diving into the trenches and seeing what Hustle can buy. Until then, we'll see you guys later.